The views and opinions expressed in this recording do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Logan City Council. Logan City Council does not make any representation of the accuracy of any such views and opinions.
Okay, hi everyone. All right, so we have an hour and a half to get about 2 hours of information in, so I'm going to get right into it. If you have questions, do put your hand up. Sometimes you'll ask a question and you're asking a question about step 3. When I'm on step 1, I'm just going to tell you to wait until we get to step 3, okay? But if it's a question that is going to add to what we're doing that I can answer right away, I will answer it right away. So the first thing we need to talk about is milk. Milk is an amazing substance. It's full of lots of micronutrients and macronutrients. So there are 3 macronutrients, and that's really all there are. There's fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Some people say fiber is also a macronutrient. Other people say it's not. Depends on which textbook you read from which university. So protein, there's 2 types of protein in dairy, the casein protein and the albumin protein. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make cheese which will take the casein protein and keep it, but the albumin protein, which is a wonderful source of protein, will be left over in the liquid, which is called whey. So another common term for that protein is whey protein. So when we're done, we're going to have a pot of whey that's full of protein. And if I was at home, I would be using it for my next cooking thing or making ricotta out of it. But today, of course, I don't really have a way to get a pot of whey home safely. So it's probably going to end up going down the drain. Okay, so what we're doing is we're getting all this goodness of the milk to come together into a solid curd. And in order to get a curd, you need to have a condition in the pot that is conducive to making a curd. So what you need is you need a warm, calcium-rich, acidic environment. I call it the 3-legged stool of cheese making. If you do not have all these 3 things, your cheese will not work. Anyone who's tried to make cheese and it just didn't come together, it just stayed milk, those are the 3 things you need to be looking at: warm, calcium-rich, and acidic. So the first thing we're going to do to this milk is we're going to heat it to 32 degrees. So I've popped it on a low heat. I don't want to hurry up. I've just, it's just below 10 degrees now because it's been out of the cooler for just a little bit. And I need to get it to 32. We're really taking the milk and we're taking it back to pretty much how it was when it came out of the cow, because it wasn't below 5 degrees when it came out of the cow. So we need to warm it back up again. The next thing we need to do is we need to make it calcium rich. And you would think that milk was already calcium rich. Who'd been told that milk's a wonderful source of calcium? And you're right, it is. But it's tied up in a thing called CCP, colloidal calcium phosphate, CCP. Okay, so that means it's already joined to something else. The reason we need the calcium in cheese making is because through a chemical bond that I won't go into great detail about, if you want to know how the molecular structure, come ask me afterwards, because not everyone wants to know. So we need it to let go of the phosphate so it can hang on to the proteins and pull the proteins together, because it is the protein in your milk that forms the curd. All right? So we're going to have to add some calcium to the milk because there's not enough calcium in it. It's an unfortunate side effect of the pasteurization process. When milk comes out of the cow, it is not very acidic. Okay, so when this is a pH scale, water is neutral, acid is 0, and alkaline or basic is 14. So when milk comes out of the cow, it's about 6.5 to 7, and calcium doesn't dissolve at that pH. It actually needs to drop. When I say drop, the scientists made the scale upside down, so the lower numbers are at the top, just to confuse you. So it drops. And when it drops enough, the calcium dissolves, and now you have free calcium in your milk, so you get a good curd. But it's been pasteurized, and then it's been refrigerated below 5 degrees, so it is no longer going to drop enough to free the calcium. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a bit of calcium in. So I've just got some water. Make sure whenever you dilute any ingredients for cheese making, you don't use water out of your tap with chlorine. Chlorine's job is to kill microorganisms, and you're going to use that kind of stuff in your cheese making, so make sure you don't put any chlorinated water in. This is calcium chloride. Chemical formula is CaCl2, calcium chloride, 1 calcium to 2 chlorides. It is the salt. It is a naturally occurring mineral. You can mine this out of the ground. In fact, that's where it comes from. So we're just going to put a very small amount, just 1/8 of a teaspoon, in some water. It comes in your kit. And we're going to mix that in, and now this has as much free calcium as it did when it came out of the cow, okay? Because raw milk is not pasteurized. The bacteria is alive. It eats the sugar, turns it into lactic acid, lowers the pH, dissolves the calcium, makes it free and available to the cheese making and to you. This is why they sell milk fortified with calcium in the grocery store, because they're trying to fix that little problem. You can get a bottle of this and do a couple of drops of calcium in your milk, and you've fortified your own milk with calcium, and you can save yourself the money. You have a question? If you were using raw milk, you would not have to add calcium chloride. Do remember, the reason that they pasteurize milk is not to kill the lovely natural lactic acid bacteria that we need for cheese making, that we have to put back in pasteurized milk. The reason for pasteurization is to kill things like listeria and E. coli. My own mother got tuberculosis from drinking raw milk when she was a child because pasteurization was not mandatory back then. So there is a good reason for pasteurization, but you could also make lovely cheeses out of raw milk. You just have to know what you're doing. I wouldn't suggest someone brand new to cheese making start making cheese with raw milk. There are now places in Australia that do have raw milk cheeses. It's a special license is required to make those types of cheeses for sale. Of course, if you have a cow in your backyard and you want to make raw milk cheeses for yourself, that is perfectly legal. And if you do have a cow in your backyard, give me your number afterwards. I'll be round. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make another dilution with my next ingredient. Remember I said it needed to be warm, calcium-rich, and acidic? Well, normally what we would do is we would get that lactic acid bacteria, which you can buy in a freeze-dried form from Green Living Australia, and you would put that in the milk because the milk was pasteurized, so you don't have that naturally anymore. So we're trying to wind it back and make it like it was when it came out of the cow. But then after you put that bacteria in, you've got to wait. So we don't want to wait today. What we want to do is we want to directly acidify this cheese. And every different cheese recipe that uses direct acidification use different acid, and they use different amounts. This one is citric acid. You could use vinegar. You could use lemon juice. They will all make different cheeses. The texture of the curd will be different with a different acid. So we're going to go ahead and just dissolve 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid. Now you've got the recipe. I think it was handed out to everyone. 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid, and tip that in as well. So now we've directly acidified our cheese. So we've got our 3-legged stool of cheese making, which is warm, calcium-rich, and acidic. So mix that up. And now that we've got those 3 things in place, we know if we add the coagulant, it is going to form a curd. So the coagulant we're using is rennet. Rennet is an enzyme. Now, enzymes are produced by every living thing on this planet. So plants produce enzymes, humans produce enzymes, animals produce enzymes, bacteria produces enzymes. They are the things that do the work, all right? Everything that goes on in your body is driven by some enzymatic reaction. So as far as types of enzymes, there are enzymes that take things apart. You'd be familiar with some of them. They would be digestive enzymes, the things that help you break down your food and absorb your nutrition. Then there are enzymes that build things. There's an enzyme that just sits there in your body and grabs an iron and sticks it into a hemoglobin. And then he grabs another one and does it again, okay? And they just continue to work and work and work until they wear out, and then your body makes new ones. Enzymes are proteins. So this particular enzyme we're going to use, renin, is in rennet, and it is a digestive enzyme. It takes things apart. So what it does is it actually starts taking apart proteins. So imagine a protein. When you see them in a textbook, they're chains, okay? Chains of amino acids make peptides, and then chains of peptides make proteins. But they don't really look like that because they kind of look like this. Very complex. So that's all, screwed up in a ball. Now, they're tightly packed, and we want them to stick together. So if you've got marbles and you want them to stick together, that's pretty difficult, right? So what you want to do is you want to denature the proteins, unwind the proteins a little, so they start to look like this. Same amount of peptides, just taking a bigger space, right? And they kind of become fluffy. Little bits hanging off as they start to break down. And now they're fluffy. Now they'll stick together with the help of calcium. So what we end up with is a curd, which is made of a protein attached to a protein attached to a protein, and you've got a network, okay? And calcium is the glue. So it's like a brick wall. Your protein is the bricks and your calcium is the mortar. So that's what we want to do. So we're going to take some enzyme and we're going to dilute it in a little bit of water again, and we're going to pop that into our milk. Now, I said it comes from, this enzyme can come from plants, animals, or bacteria. The same enzyme can come from all three places. The one that I'm using, this is a vegetable one. The animal one normally is from the lining of the stomach of a milk-fed calf, kid, or lamb. There's a microbial one as well that is normally liquid. And there is this vegetable one that comes in a tablet form. You only need 1/4 of a tablet dissolved in a bit of water to be able to coagulate all of the 4 liters that I have put in the pot. Yes? Yes, the question is the water I'm using. So the water I'm using is bottled water that has no chlorine in it. If you don't want to buy bottled water, then just take some water and boil it, and then let it cool down completely, and that would have destroyed the chlorine. So you can do that. Or take water, put it in a sealed container, jug or something, and put it outside in the sunshine all day. That will also take out all the chlorine. Okay, someone says, with the citric acid and the lemon, could you use rennet? Could you use junket tablets and lemon juice? The answer is no. Junket tablets have quite a few different ingredients in them. One rennet tablet is enough to do up to 50 liters. You might have to use a whole pack of junket tablets, and it wouldn't turn out quite the same because there's other ingredients. And lemon juice is not quite the same as citric acid. And then the question would be how much lemon juice to use. And then I would start asking you, I don't know, what kind of lemon? How long was the lemon on the tree before you picked it? How long did you leave it in the bowl before you used it? How much sunshine was there that year? Did you do a titration before you used the lemon juice? Citric acid. Okay, the tablets come in the kit. So the question is, where do you get the tablets? And after you have used all the tablets in the kit, which will take you a while, by the way. Remember, we're using 1/4 of a tablet. So that means you can do what I'm doing today 40 times, and then you'll need to come back to me and spend $10 for another pack of tablets. So it's actually very, very cheap to make your own cheese because the ingredients per cheese cost about 25 cents plus your milk. Okay? So trying to use other things and hoping it worked, you're only saving 25 cents. Probably not worth it. All right? Junket tablets will end up being more expensive than the rennet tablets because these are so strong. Yes, question? Okay, so the question is, do the rennet tablets and citric acid have an expiry date? Well, everything in Australia has a 2-year expiry date. That's the law. It's got nothing to do with whether it's going to expire or not. That's just the law. So I get these rennet tablets imported. We do not make rennet in this country, so they are imported. And when they come in with their French specification sheet, it says 5 years. And then when I translate it into Australian and get the Australian one from the company that imports it here, it changes to 2 years because that's the law. Right? So I reckon 5 years. I've never had a pack that didn't work, and I have sometimes found stuff in the back of my freezer that was a bit old, and it still worked. But they are stored in the freezer, so they're completely inanimate. They're just asleep because enzymes are alive. Now, I've mixed it in. I've mixed it in for about 30 seconds. You don't want to mix too long because it'll start setting really fast. So if you mix too long, you might find yourself stirring chunks around the pot. And it's going to set and it's going to look like junket. Now, I know we have some people that know what that is because you've had some questions. If you don't know what junket is, you're probably a child. or not from here or something, okay? All right, yeah. This is. I normally ask who knows what junket is because then I know who the adults are in the room. Yes? You're a child. I've got children in my 30s. Yeah. I'm pushing 60, darling, so, you know. Okay, junket is a dessert. All right, so when I was a kid growing up, banana junket was my favorite. I wouldn't go back to that now because I know it was rennet, junket tablets, artificial flavor, artificial color, and a whole bunch of sugar. So probably not what I would do these days. But when I was a kid, anytime anyone was ever sick in my house, junket. So, sore throat, junket. Upset stomach, junket, you know. So by the time I got to be an adult, someone said, junket? I go, no, please. But it wasn't really bad. It was just associated with illness in my house. And I've talked to a lot of people in my age group, and they had the same experience. Junket apparently cured everything. Jelly, yeah. Yep. So what we have in the pot is something that's setting to look like junk, and it only takes 5 minutes. Now, there are a couple of reasons why it can take longer than 5 minutes. The first reason is you put the tablet in here, your quarter of a tablet, you put the water in, you mix it up, and then you put it down. And you were waiting for it to get to 32 degrees before you put it in. And then when it got to 32 degrees, you just picked it up and you tipped it in. Now, it's kind of like cornstarch. It settles to the bottom. And like 5 minutes later, you're waiting and it hasn't set. People have called on the helpline going, the mozzarella kit's not working, it's not setting, it's been 10 minutes, it's still not set. And I'm asking them all these questions, and trying to find out what happened. And then I think to myself, it doesn't even sound like they put the rennet in. Did they forget? No, they didn't forget. And I go, well, have a look at the cup. And they go, oh. And all the powder is still sitting on the bottom of the cup. So do make sure when you put it in, if you have to wait for a minute for it to get to the right temperature, stir it up again. Make sure it actually gets in the pot, okay? The second reason that it might not set in the 5 minutes and possibly 10 minutes is a really, really, really cold day. Now, my place is at Stanthorpe, right? That's where I go to get away and to have my quiet time and to write. And it's wicked cold up there in winter sometimes. So I'm thinking it's a balmy 15 degrees in my kitchen because it's -2 outside. And the cheese is just taking a bit longer to set. Because remember, it needs a warm, calcium-rich acidic environment, and the heat is being pulled out of the pot while it's sitting in my kitchen, and I'm not really noticing how cold it is in comparison. Yes? Can you use low-fat milk? Yes, you can. You can make low-fat mozzarella. I don't do that. I don't like anything low-fat. I have accepted the fact that fat tastes great, and I eat as much fat as I want, but I do not consume anything with sugar in it. No. I have not succeeded making it lactose-free. The lactose-free milk will not form a curd, mostly because that milk is pasteurized at too high a temperature because it's a slow seller. Okay? All right, my 5 minutes is up. I'm going to go on to the next step. This is a curd knife. Now, this does not come with the kit, mostly because it doesn't fit in the box. But a lot of people already have something similar that they could use at home, kind of like a cake palette, right? But the key is no wooden or plastic handle. When you are cheese making, you are using a lot of microorganisms and you're leaving it at room temperature for a long time, sometimes 5, 6, 7 hours, okay? You don't want bacteria that you did not deliberately put into your cheese milk to grow. And if you have a plastic or a wooden handle, there's probably more bacteria living up inside that handle than there are stars in the Milky Way. Has anyone ever got some utensils at home that have wooden or plastic handles? Has anyone ever had one come off? Okay, up the back there. What did it look like? Gross. This black, slimy, greeny stuff up inside there. Well, if you're making chicken noodle soup and some of that gets in your, a few 100,000 bacteria get in your chicken noodle soup, they die because you're boiling it. This is 32 degrees. What do you think they're going to do?
Got another question up the back,
yes.
Mel.
Any kind of handle. One-piece stainless steel. That's hygienic. That's commercial grade. So you might need one of these. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut the curd to make sure we get a clean, what's called a clean break. That means make sure it really is set. Do we need to give it some extra time or not? So just make a little cut and then just turn the blade over and slide it underneath and give it a little lift. And what you want to see is you want to see it cleave open nice and clean. So now you have this incision. It cleaves open nice and clean. And that space that you've made will immediately fill with liquid. That liquid is the whey, and it needs to be a clear, translucent yellow color, not milky. And if it is milky, you need to give it another 5 minutes. Yes, we've got another question. We do classes where you have to make the mozzarella, so do talk to me afterwards about classes where, because our classes are restricted to 8 people and it is very, very hands-on, so you will get to see it all. But no, it's not, apparently he can't get the camera up, and I can't have 150 people come in and have a look. If I tilt it, it'll go, yeah, I can't tilt it either, okay? All right, so now what I have to do, because it is set, I need to cut it into pieces. I'm going to now do the 5 things that control moisture content. So we'll write them on the board, because you don't have them written in your notes there. The first one was temperature. And we did it at 32 degrees. The second one is surface area. Now, this curd has the smallest amount of surface that it can for its mass because it's all in one piece. So to increase the surface area, we're going to cut it into smaller pieces. So the more cuts we make, the closer together the cuts we make, the more the surface area. The more the surface area, the more moisture comes out. When we made that one cut, it filled with yellow whey. The whey cannot come out in the middle because there's nowhere for it to go. But if we put the curd knife in and we cut it in half, and then we pick a line 1.5 to 2 centimeters away and cut it again, we can cut it into slabs, 1.5 to 2 centimeter slabs. And then we can cut across those and make them into a checkered pattern. So now we have columns. And then we need to cut this way as well, but you can't do that in a round pot, so we're going to put up with this way. So you just angle it and cut it backwards and forwards, and do the same with the other side. And now, instead of cubes, which is what you would normally have in cheese making, you have dodgy looking triangles instead. But it doesn't matter, because all you were trying to do was increase the surface area, which is what we've done. Okay, so the third one on the third step is to stir it to reduce the moisture content. But we're going to add heat at the same time. So once again, we're going to turn it down. So it's a low heat. And we're going to stir it gently around the pot while we heat it. So what we're doing is we started at 30. We're going to heat it to 40 now. The higher the temperature you make your curds and whey, the more moisture will come out. The more you cut your cheese into pieces and the closer together the cuts, more moisture comes out. And the longer you stir it, more moisture comes out. Because we've made our curd. There's really only two things you're doing in cheese making, and that is lowering the pH and then reducing the moisture content. And then what you have left is cheese. So we've already lowered the pH with the citric acid. So now we're working on the next part of cheese making, which is reducing the moisture content. So temperature, cutting it into pieces, and then stirring it reduces the moisture content. You'll all get to see this curd because the next step I'm actually going to take it out of the pot and put it in a glass bowl, so you'll be able to see it much more. Now, as you stir it, you can see the whey pouring out. You've got a lot of loose curds floating around in a lot of liquid now, whereas before you just had one solid piece of curd. And it doesn't take long to get to 40 degrees because it was already at 32, remember. I'll just turn the thermometer around so I can actually read it. Don't do so well upside down. I've got it on a low heat. You don't ever want to do this too fast. If you heat curds up too fast, they kind of get like a skin, a coating around them, and then they can't let go of their moisture because the skin around them is preventing the moisture coming out. So nice and slow and gentle. One of the big mistakes people make when they start cheese making is they stir it like they're mixing paint. You know, they spend all the time making this curd, and then they go like crazy, and then they just beat it back into milk. Yes, we've got another question. Until it gets to 40, which is going to be, say, 4 or 5 minutes. So this whole thing, from start to finish, takes 30 minutes. Now, the first time you do it, you might take 40 minutes because, you know, you do a step and then you stop and you go back and you read the book and then you come back and do... You know what it's like the first time you do something. It takes you a little longer. But I don't even think about what I'm doing when I'm making cheese now. It just comes as second nature, like driving a car. You don't think about, I'm going to put it in gear now and I'm going to downshift into second because I'm coming up to a red light. You don't think about it. You just do it. And the same thing for me with cheese making. So it's already 34, 35, so it's really not going to take that long. I do have a cold draft blowing on me, so it actually did drop from 32 to 30 during the 5 minutes. Yes? Okay, so the question is, where do you get a thermometer like this? It's in the kit. Okay, so in the kit there's a booklet that gives you the instructions. There's a thermometer. There's the calcium chloride, the citric acid, the rennet tablets. There's a cheese salt, which we're going to be using. It's a specially selected salt we'll talk about a little bit later. So everything that you need except for a pot to put it in, a microwave-safe bowl, a curd knife, a microwave, and a stove, and a cow. Okay, so there's a lot not in the kit. But they're really big things that don't fit in the box, all right?
The good thing is too, Valerie, is everything's available piece by piece as well.
Yes. If you've already got some of these things and go, oh, well, I don't want to buy a kit because I've already got a thermometer, then just walk in the door and say, I want a mozzarella kit, but I've already got a thermometer. The girls in the shop will just pick everything for you individually and save yourself $10. Okay, so it's just 38 now, so it's just coming up to 40. Now, once it's at 40, you have a choice. If you stop stirring right away, you're going to make quite a soft mozzarella. Remember, the longer you stir it, the firmer your final cheese will be because it's got a lower moisture content, and moisture is what makes something soft. Or you can stir it for another couple of minutes and get, for me, what's the perfect texture for boiling up and putting on pizzas. Or you can stir it for a lot longer, say 10 or 15 minutes. You can make a really solid, hard mozzarella, which is absolutely gorgeous deep fried. Just to die for, okay? Yeah. Did I tell you fat tastes great? Yeah. Okay, good. So I've turned it off. It's an induction. Remember, if you're using an electric stove and you turn it off, you have to move it off the heat. But this is an induction, so as soon as I turn it off, there is no heat, okay? So I'm going to stir it for just another minute or two. All right, so I'm very, very happy with it. I love the texture of the curds, and now you're going to get to see them. We're just going to get rid of this hot plate because we don't need it anymore. And it will cool down by itself. And we're going to get this bowl, and we're going to scoop all the curds into the bowl. Look at that. To me, these look like the most beautiful thing in the world because I know what they turn into. So the next step on our list of the 5 steps, we're up to step 4, is to press the cheese. Now, cheese is pressed in a multitude of different ways. Sometimes you just take the curds and load them into a colander lined with a cheese-making cloth, and that is not cheesecloth that you can buy at the dressmaker store. That's something else entirely. But a cheese-making cloth, and then hang it up and let gravity pull all the excess liquid out. So that's one way of draining and pressing the cheese. Another way is to load all the curds into a basket and then put a weight on top. That's what you would do with all your cheddars and all your wheels of cheese, or your Swiss-style cheeses, mountain cheeses. A lot of those cheeses are in the book. It tells you exactly how long to press and what weight to press it with. But this one is a hand-pressed cheese, or what we call a filo pasta cheese. So we're going to actually press this with our hands. You're going to love the class because you get to get your hands all up in this. Okay. So there we go. Now, we actually started the pressing just by putting it in the bowl because we put the curds on top of the curds. Now, we left the whey in the pot, but you can see there's a lot of whey now in the bowl. So what we're going to do is we're going to just tip that off. I would be normally doing this at a sink. Don't have a sink today, so I'm actually going to do it in the bowl, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to heat it up, and then we're going to press it. So remember, heat makes more moisture come out. So with the heating of it, we're going to go from 32 to 40 when we did the first step, and then now we're going to go to 60, and we're going to do it bit by bit, okay?
If my mic works, there we go. A lady was just asking, what are you putting on your hands up there?
Oh, I'm just using a hand sanitizer. This is one that was recommended to me by the Mater Hospital because I have sensitive skin. A lot of hand sanitizers have alcohol and other stuff in, which you don't want to get near your cheese and your cheese making anyway because it kills microorganisms, and you want the good ones, not the bad ones. This one here is an alcohol-free, aloe vera-based hand sanitizer that was recommended to me by Mater Hospital. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my cheese and I'm going to put it in the microwave to get it warm for 1 minute, just 1 minute. I'm just going to move this for now because I'm going to be doing stuff low down and I want you all to be able to see it, okay?
Valerie, you got a question in the back. What do you do if you haven't got a microwave?
You can use the hot bath method. All right, so if you don't have a microwave or don't like microwaves, then take this pot of whey that you have. You've got 3 liters of whey sitting in here. Put it back on the stove, pop your thermometer back in it, and heat it all the way to 85 degrees. Once it gets to 85 degrees, this cheese that you have in your bowl during that time would have formed into one solid piece. Just slide it back in to the pot and cook it in that hot liquid for 5 minutes. And then take it out. It'll be hot. And then start working it with your hands exactly the same as what I'm going to do here. So 1 minute in the microwave, 5 minutes in the pot. Yes, question? That you do, yes. So you put the whey back on the stove and heat it up to 85 degrees. Then slide your cheese back into it.
These instructions for the pot method are also on the website, aren't they?
Yep, on the website and in the book.
In the book.
And in the booklet that comes with the kit. It's all in there. Okay, so because we heated it, more whey came out. Now, it's not 60 degrees yet, but it's pretty hot. Okay? Now, I will warn you, when you first start doing this, it's going to go back in the microwave 2 more times at 30 seconds each. It's going to be 60 degrees. You can burn yourself with 60 degrees. All right? So if you have to wear rubber gloves, wear rubber gloves. All right? I've been doing this for a very long time. And I can stick my hands in 60 degrees now, no problem at all.
Another question up the back, Valerie.
Yes, another question up the back. What do I do with this pot? All right. And as I push down on it, more whey comes out. So I'm like kneading it. Now what I would do at home is I would clear off my draining or area. I'd put down like a cutting board and I'd just tip the whole thing out onto the cutting board and do it right on the cutting board. That way the liquid would just run off the board and down into the sink. If I do that here and it gets all over the carpet, they probably won't ask me back. Okay, so even after just one microwave and kneading it a bit, look what I got. Now it wants to stretch, but if I actually pull it, it's going to break. Okay, it's not ready. It is the folding that gives you the texture and the heating that removes the liquid. So you have to do both. Now it's starting to cool down now. So I'm going to pop it back in the microwave for 30 seconds. The number of times this has to go in the microwave is determined by a couple of different things. Are you stopping and going and reading the book to catch up on your directions because you're not used to this and it's cooling down? Maybe it needs to go in the microwave one more time then. Do you have a small, low wattage microwave? It just takes that microwave longer to get something hot. So maybe you need to put it in an extra time. For me, with this microwave, I know 3 times in the microwave is perfect. So 1 minute the first time, always 30 seconds for times after that, and third time's always a charm with this microwave. But I've had other microwaves that were just not as strong, and it's taken me 4 times. It's really hot now. And the next time it goes in, you'll actually see steam coming out of it. Yes? Yes. 5 minutes. Okay, the first time is 5 minutes. And then you go ahead and take it out and start working it. And you'll feel the difference when it starts cooling down. It starts to stiffen up and it's kind of suddenly is a bit more hard work. If it doesn't feel uncomfortably hot on your hands, it's probably not hot enough. Not burning, but just a bit uncomfortable.
We're talking about doing the hot water bath method there. That's what the 5 minutes was, guys.
Yep, I've got the microwave set at maximum, which is, of course, different for every microwave, which is why some microwaves take a bit longer to do it. Okay, it's third time now. It should be looking really good when it comes out. And then once we're happy with it, what we're going to do is we're going to do the 5th and final step, which is to add a little bit of salt. Salt serves a couple of functions. It is important for flavor. It controls microbiological actions that are going on within the cheese, and it also helps reduce moisture again, just a little bit. So when we do put the salt in, you will notice that some more whey comes out. There's not much whey coming out now, though, is there? It's kind of done letting go of its whey, and it's really, really hot. So we're only getting a little bit of whey, so heat's not going to really push any more whey out. It's kind of done its thing like that. So just keep working it to get the texture that you want. And then once it feels right, and you're thinking, I need to check if this is ready now. How do you check if it's ready? Well, you need to know if it stretches and is it going to break. So here you go. And it's really hot now, so we're playing hot potato. It doesn't break. It will just keep stretching and stretching and stretching. You could turn it into a skipping rope or something like that. Okay? It's done. I could get meters and meters and meters out of this. So I'm happy with that. I'm like, yeah, that's really good. So now I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and I might need to warm it up again just a little bit just to knead the salt in. The reason I'm heating it up now is not to get any extra texture or softness or anything like that. I just want to be able to get the salt to mix in evenly. I'm going to go with 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I like less and less salt all the time. Salt is a very personal taste. Some people put a whole teaspoon in. Some people put half a teaspoon in. That's for you to decide. Remember, it's your cheese. It is a special salt. Yes, the question is about the salt. It is specially selected for the dairy industry for cheese. It has to be a large crystalline structure. Otherwise, it actually dissolves too fast, and then you get uneven distribution of salt throughout your cheese. It also has no iodine. Iodine kills microorganisms. Okay, that's why they put it on scraped knees, because it kills microorganisms. So if you're actually putting microorganisms into your cheese and then putting this salt on them, you're going to kill some of them, if not all of them, and then your cheese won't mature properly. So, you know, you were trying to make a cheddar, you put the wrong salt in, and you end up with something very unpleasant. I'm just going to warm it up just a little bit again, just to melt that salt in. It also has no anti-caking agent, and it has not been bleached. I don't eat bleach, so I don't eat bleached food. Yes? Depends on if it has a naturally high level of iodine. So each salts take on the minerals of the environment that they come from. So, you know, rock salt may be appropriate. For example, pink Himalayan salt. Okay, don't use that. Yeah, it's fantastic for you. I use it for everything else, but not for my cheese because it has a naturally high level of iodine, which is why it's so healthy for you. Okay, now what I would normally do at this point is I would drop my ball of cheese into some ice water, some cold water, and it would pull all the rest of the heat out of it, which would stop it weeping any further away, and it would also make it hold its shape. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to take it out and put it on a plate. Because there is nothing like eating hot mozzarella. Woohoo! You awake now? I'll tell you, I am. Nothing like eating hot mozzarella. So, of course, food safety is ever important in my mind, so I do need to make sure it's okay for you. I'm not doing this for me. I'm pretty sure I'm doing this for you. It's terrible. You don't want any, really. Okay. They're going to cut up some pieces of this mozzarella and bring it around so each person can have some. Because we have a large crowd here today, I actually, in my commercial kitchen up in Underwood, made some mozzarella already because I think this will not make it to the back of the room, is what I'm thinking. So I have some mozzarella made yesterday. I'll just warm it up so you get to have the same experience. Yes, you have a question? The salt cannot have any iodine in it. That will kill microorganisms. You really shouldn't be eating anything that's bleached. If they tell you we bleached it, but there's no bleach residue in it, I'm sorry. I just actually don't believe that. So not bleached salt either. So that's why this one's selected for those things. Yes? Okay, so about 250 grams of salt to 2 liters of water. A fully saturated is about 450 grams. So you don't want it fully saturated because this is a very soft cheese, and soft cheeses will absorb more salt. All right, so of course if you take your cheese and put it in a container while it's still hot, when it comes out, it takes on the shape of the container. And then you could slice this. One of my favorite things to eat is I take this cheese, I slice it up, I put it on toast, and then I put beef steak tomato slices on top of that, and then just grill it. Just beautiful. It's a fantastic breakfast. So we're just going to warm this one up for a minute. So it will be ready when they run out of that one for the next people. Yes? Yes, you can. The question is freezing an option? So as far as storage, I never have an issue with storage with this cheese because basically I make it and it's all gone. It's just, there's never any leftovers. But if you did want to make some ahead of time, for a function perhaps that you were doing. You were having pizza night, you know, state of origin, something like that. We have made it ahead of time and we have frozen it. So you can keep it in brine in your refrigerator. You can keep it in olive oil in your refrigerator. You can just pop it in a box like I did yesterday and keep it in your refrigerator. This will last for several days just like this. And then ultimately, if you guys don't eat all of these, when I get home, they'll just go in the freezer. And they'll last for ages. Yes? I wouldn't put it in the freezer in the brine or the olive oil. All right. So, yep, they're going to be there for you just in a minute. Yes? Okay, yes. Buffalo milk is the best milk to use for mozzarella. It really is absolutely fantastic. I can't get buffalo milk, so I have to go ahead and just use whatever milk I can get, so I'm just sticking with the dairy milk. The one with the soft center, okay, that's called burrata. So you actually, what you do is, you know that part where I had the curds and I put them all in the bowl? Then I made that curd into the cheese. What you do is you take 25% of the curds and set them aside. You go ahead and make the cheese. And then, you know how I can stretch it in any direction? Well, I can also put it as a ball on a counter, and I can roll it out with a rolling pin and make a mozzarella sheets. Now, you can buy mozzarella sheets, but only in Melbourne. Make your own mozzarella sheets and then cut it into pieces and then put little piles of the curds mixed with cream into them and make little pockets. Fat tastes great. What'd I tell you? Okay, so just trying to melt this mozzarella, make it all beautiful and gooey and stretchy again. Yes. Yes, so the next question is, what do you do with the whey that's left over? Can you freeze that? I take the whey and I put it back in the bottle that it came out of. So it has a best before date on it already, okay, or expiration date. It's actually a use-by date. So I know this whey is going to last at least as long as this. So it can just go in my fridge door and I can use it over the next few days for, you know, buttermilk pancakes or whatever it is I want to make. It works fantastic as a substitute for butter or sour milk in recipes. But then if I am going to be going away or I'm not going to be doing a lot of cooking, I just take the whole bottle and chuck it in the freezer. When I come back, I can throw it out and go ahead and start baking with it. I use my whey from cheese making to do my bread making. In fact, the bread turns out better if you use whey rather than water. Has extra protein in it as well, so that's really good. I use my whey instead of water as basis for soups and stews. I use whey instead of milk in cakes. So I try not to waste any of the food resources that we are given. Yes? Yes, you can freeze milk. However, some milks of poorer quality will separate. The other thing you need to know about milk is not all milks are created equal. If you try to use Coles brand or Woolworths brand milks to make this cheese, it will not work. What I need you to do when you buy milk is have a look at the ingredients panel and have a look at the nutritional information. So this one says protein is 3.4%. Now that's exactly how much was in when it came out of the cow. All right, Paul's, Dairy Farmers, Norco, all the major brands, it's going to be around 3.5% because that's how much protein is in cow's milk. If you buy a bottle of Woolworths milk, go have a look next time you're in the grocery store. Read the protein, 2%. Okay, they've taken nearly half of the protein out, turned it into protein powder and sold it to someone else. I need the plate. This is Scenic Rim milk. Okay, Scenic Rim Dairy. Beautiful dairy, not far from here, just down in Bow Desert. Ooh, stretchy cheese. And it's just gorgeous milk. And they don't do anything except pasteurize it in accordance with the law. Nothing else is done to it. Woo! No, the microwaving it in the bowl doesn't work. It wants a plate. Okay, so yes, another question down there. Yeah, so you know when it's really hot? Okay, I've got it in my hands and I squeeze it and it comes out here in a little bulb and I pinch it off. Now, I've seen an Italian lady go squeeze, pinch really fast. I'm nowhere near that fast. I'm like thinking about making it. And that bocconcini just literally means little mouthful. That's what it means, little mouthful. So what they mean is little mouthful of mozzarella. Okay, so a good mixture of whey would be to have about, in a 2-liter brine solution, to have about 125 mils of whey. The reason for that is you want the pH of your liquid to match the pH of your cheese. Things will seek to equalize. So if you've got water, which is a pH of 7, and you put it with your cheese, which is now a pH of 5.3, it will actually suck the acid out of your cheese. Your cheese will look like it's going slimy and dissolve and sink to the bottom. Anyone ever had cheeses in whey or a brine that it kind of like went yucky and sunk to the bottom? Not that many cheesemakers here? 125 mils. All of this is in my book. And a zillion other things that you won't even think to ask. Yes. Okay, so the question is, when you make butter, you've got to get all the, you've got to wash the solids, the fat, to make sure you get all the liquid out, which is the whey. If you were in the middle of making mozzarella and you didn't have time to finish, would that go rancid? You have to finish. You start, you finish. Okay, it's a time-sensitive thing, and if you start, you finish. So if someone asks me, when I'm in the middle of making cheese, if they ask me, can you help me do blah? The answer is no. It could. It wouldn't, so, it would go rancid. It would have too much liquid in it. You can't go back later. It's time sensitive. Okay, you got to, what you really have to understand about this is think about milk as something that's alive. All right, and you've got a certain window of opportunity to turn it from milk into a great cheese, and if you don't follow the times and temperatures accurately, you'll turn it from milk into a not so great cheese. All right. So it is a certain amount of practice.
I've got a couple of questions here. Do you have time for some questions? Okay. So if you're lactose intolerant, can you not use the whey?
There is some lactose in the whey, yes. There's no way you can make sure all the lactose ends up in your cheese. A lot of the lactose will end up in the cheese, but not all of it. So it depends on how lactose intolerant you are.
Is it safe to give it to babies?
Yes, it is safe to give it to babies. There's always a chance that a child will not do well on cow's milk. My youngest daughter, for example, there's 6 kids, and the youngest one, cow's milk is not an option for her because she has a problem with the dairy protein in cow's milk. So everything for her is goat's milk cheeses, goat's milk to drink, a special cream separated to separate the cream off goat's milk. So normally babies, yes, just fine. Your child ends up like mine and can't actually have dairy protein, then no. Any other questions? Okay, so the question is, could you take the whey and turn it into kefir or kefir? Yes, you can. And of course, any lactose left over from the making of that would turn into acid. So that would take care of your lactose problem. We had a question somewhere over here. Okay, can we do the same cheese we did today with goat's milk? Absolutely. I've done it hundreds of times. Works perfectly well. Yes, over here. We've got another question.
Is all the ingredients gluten-free?
Okay.
Are all the ingredients gluten-free?
Yes, there's no gluten in any of the ingredients in the kit. So it is cheese is a gluten-free food. All right. So how many people do we have that don't have a sample yet? Oh, my Lord. They're just going to have to... I'll tell you what. I'm gonna have to start talking about the next subject while they continue to go ahead and cut up and deliver cheese, okay? Because we've got half an hour left, and I do want to dedicate that half an hour to covering some other things that you could easily make at home. Let's talk about yogurt briefly. Yogurt is a wonderfully healthy food, but does anyone know why it is healthy? Why is yogurt good for you?
Yeah, she's finished actually.
For your gut, bacteria. That's the healthy part. So if you go to the store right now and you buy, I don't know, some regular ordinary brand strawberry yogurt, you know, it's all pink, it's got lots of strawberries in it, it's real sweet. Is that good for you? No. They did a survey not long ago, I think it's 3 or 4 months ago. The average number of teaspoons of sugar in a single serve yogurt was 7. So why don't you just eat ice cream and have a can of Coke with it? Okay? Now, lactic acid bacteria, the bacteria that you use to make yogurt, the ones that are good for you, for your digestive system, what they do is they eat sugar and turn it into lactic acid. So if you've got a yogurt that is made with lactic acid bacteria, that's how you make yogurt, and then you want to add lots of sugar to it to sell it, because, you know, we know in the food industry, the more salt and sugar you add, the more profit you make. And that's what we care about, right? Not your health. So what happens is they actually have to kill the bacteria first and then go ahead and add the sugar. Because if they didn't kill the bacteria first, the bacteria would eat the sugar and turn it into something that doesn't taste that great, right? So what we want to do is we want to make beautiful natural yogurt. We do not want to add sugar to it. What we can do is we can go ahead and serve it with something sweet if we choose to. Blueberries, raspberries, some cut up strawberries. I admit to putting yogurt on pancakes and then putting maple syrup on top of it. Okay? Yes? Depends. Someone says, can you add vanilla essence? Well, some vanilla essence is made with alcohol. Alcohol kills bacteria. So you're best actually not to flavor it with anything at all and just make a lovely natural yogurt. And then what you can do is as you put it in your bowl or on your pancake or whatever it is you do with it, go ahead at that point in time and flavor it with whatever you want. I make a bircher muesli. I put it in muesli. I put apple in it. I put cinnamon on it. There's all these different things you can do. You want to have that really healthy natural yogurt that hasn't been killed so you can sweeten it. All right? Yes. Okay, so the question is about Greek yogurt. Well, most of the time, what Greek yogurt is referring to is a thickness. Technically, from the dairy industry, what we say is Greek yogurt, to be Greek yogurt, it has to have 8.5 to 9% protein. Now, how much protein was in the milk when it came out of the cow? About 3.5. So what do? So what the Greeks did, the Turks will tell you it was the Turks, the Greeks will tell you it was the Greeks, kind of like the Pavlova Australia and New Zealand argument. What they did is they made yogurt, which is pourable. Yogurt, you can pour it like thick cream, okay? But what they did is they then hung that in cloths and drained 20 to 25% of the excess liquid out of it until they got this really high protein content. And that's really thick. And the more protein that can find each other, the more they're bound together, and you get this gorgeous yogurt. What we don't actually do that in the dairy industry anymore. I've got at my office somewhere some old black and white photos of these huge bags of yogurt hanging up in big warehouses, you know, and then flies, and it's all very open to the environment. It's not very hygienic. We don't do that anymore. What we do is we actually add dairy protein to the milk before we make the yogurt. You know, we get it from the people who skim it off the top of the Coles and Woolworths milk. Yeah. This is the truth. I know it sounds funny, but it's the truth. You couldn't make this crap up, could you? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's just a different bacteria. Okay? So if you get a Greek yogurt, you've got to drain it or you've got to add protein powder. So for you at home, what you can do to get that beautiful, thick Greek yogurt the way you want it, which you now think is how all yogurt is, but it's not. Okay, what you do is you need to add 1/3 of a cup of milk powder per litre of milk. So you get your litre of milk, you put 1/3 of a cup of milk powder in there, you put a little bit of bacteria in there that you're going to make your yogurt out of, and then you go ahead, if you really want it to be thick, you can also add some calcium. Because remember, what is the curd? The curd is the proteins bonding together. What do they need to bond together? Calcium. All right? So the difference between cheese and yogurt really is yogurt's got one step, lower the pH. When the pH gets to 4.6, it will go from liquid to solid. 4.6 is the magic number. It's very, very important because 4.6 is also the point where you can no longer get botulism poisoning. Okay, which is why cheese making and yogurt making is such a wonderful, safe, preserving technique. So a little bit of calcium chloride is what I always put in mine as well. So we do have some yogurt samples for you. We have some dairy yogurt samples that we made with our yogurt maker. Can I have our yogurt maker? Our yogurt maker is, we designed it and we manufacture this based on our design. We weren't happy with the designs that were available on the market because we were looking to avoid a thing called temperature creep. The yogurt that we're going to give you has been fermented for 24 hours. Diets like the GAPS diet and the SCD diet, they all recommend 24-hour fermentation because you want a low sugar count and a high bacteria count. So a lot of yogurt makers would actually temperature creep. So they were great for 8 to 10 hours. Every yogurt maker we tested made great yogurt in 8 to 10 hours. There's not a single one of them out there that doesn't do what it says it's supposed to do. They're all good. But we wanted to do long fermentation. What we found when we went 16, 18, 20, 24 hours, they just got slowly hotter and hotter and hotter over time until eventually they got too hot. So the yogurt that comes out of them is fantastic. Beautiful, thick, creamy yogurt. However, if it went over a certain temperature, they actually pasteurize it at the end. So you can't tell the bacteria is dead. It looks good, tastes good, but it's no longer got live bacteria. So this one does not temperature creep. It's guaranteed not to temperature creep. It also is BPA free and it is suitable for 1 or 2 liters. So you pop all your ingredients in the internal container, pop that into the whole thermos style electric casing, put the lid on and leave it for an entire 24 hours and it will never get too hot. At the end of the 24 hours, take the internal part out, pop it in the fridge. Now what we've done is we've actually had to go ahead and decant them into small 25 ml containers. So it's not as thick now as it was because it's no longer pot set. As soon as you take something out of the pot and put it in something else, put it in a cooler and drive downtown with it, it gets shook around a little bit. So the one, when you pot set, you know, you can pick it up on your spoon and it's like a mountain on your spoon. It's just, yeah. And then when you come back the next day, the spoon scoops are still there. All right? And sometimes you see that little bit of liquid collecting in the spoon scoops. And I've had people say, oh, my yogurt went off. I need to throw it out. No, it didn't. That means the pH is still dropping. So a little bit more whey is coming out because the bacteria is still alive. It's just evidence that the bacteria is still alive. That's all it is. Okay? All right. So I'm going to race off and bring a cooler over here and start getting out some yogurt samples. Now, I've got them in some big containers. I think probably the easiest thing to do is to give you a container and you can just pass it on and take a yogurt. Before we give you the yogurts, we will need to give you spoons. Now, when we give you the spoons, don't throw the spoon out because I have another sample coming after that, okay? I know. You didn't realize you were going to get fed so much food, did you? All right, we'll just get more cheese going. You guys are still eating, so.
I got it.
Yes, we have another question. Okay, the question is, when you have a yogurt and the whey starts coming out of it, what do you do with that? Do you mix it in or do you pour it off? If you mix it in, you break the curd. So now it's no longer pot set. It'll never come back as thick as it was before. So I just tip it off. Okay, that's just a personal choice. You could mix it in. Smoothie. He tips it in his smoothie, yeah. Because it's full of lactic acid bacteria, and this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the greatest diversity of bacteria that we can in our gut, because our gut bacteria, 80% of the bacteria in your whole body live in your gut, and they actually comprise 80% of your immune system. So they're more important than some of your other internal organs. You wouldn't want to lose an internal organ, right? Well, you don't want to lose your gut bacteria. Okay, so we'll start getting some spoons out for you. We don't have spoons going around yet, but we will. Yes. Okay, please take a spoon and pass it on.
Spoons? I've got a spoon.
So there's plain dairy sample yogurts coming around now, guys. And we're still getting that mozzarella out. Who still hasn't had a sample of the mozzarella yet?
Pass it on.
Yeah, us. Has everyone else had mozzarella? No? Sounds like me. All right, so hang on to your spoons, guys. Remember, this one is a plain dairy yogurt. There's nothing there but milk and culture. Okay? Yes, my dear. About home preserving. Do we run workshops in the pressure canning and everything else? Yeah, we do, actually. So we'll talk to you a little bit more about that after.
Okay, here's more spoons because I think we're going to run out before we get to the back.
We're working from the back forward as well. Who hasn't got a spoon, guys?
So this is just a standard dairy yogurt. It doesn't have anything in it except milk and culture. It has a Streptococcus thermophilus and a lactobacillus. Lactobacillus is a lot of research on the whole lactobacillus area, showing how good it is for the body and how important it is. The other thing that you can do, of course, is you can add additional cultures to your yogurt. So we carry a culture called ABC, which is Acidophilus, Bifidus, and Casei. They're also very, very important. Everyone has heard of Acidophilus. Pretty much you know that if you have had antibiotics, you need to get in a probiotic, and Acidophilus is always in the mix there. But there's new research coming out all the time on the various different things that the various bacteria do. We now know Bifidus, for example, is responsible for keeping a higher level of what's called killer cells, Th17 cells in your body. Killer cells are very, very important. It is what finds and destroys the cells in your body that mutate. When your body is running perfectly well, any mutating cell is destroyed by your own body. It never gets to become a precancerous cell, and you can never get cancer. However, if the system is not working properly, your killer cells do not clean up all your slightly mutated cells, and they then can turn precancerous, and you can end up with cancer. We know that there's a bacteria that lives in the large intestine that makes a cell that kills bowel cancer. All it does is go ahead and seeks out and destroys bowel cancer. It's an enzyme. That's its job. It's not an enzyme the human body produces. It's an enzyme the bacteria produces. We don't know which enzyme. We found which bacteria makes that enzyme. So what I'm suggesting is we all need to have a very large diversity of gut bacteria to increase our odds of survival. Yes. Yes, we have kefir as well. That has 5 completely different microorganisms that have another whole range of health benefits. We're all talking about bacteria diversity in the gut. Kefir is a drink. It's a fermented drink. I do a whole workshops on fermented foods. Talk to your library about getting us back to do kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha, and all that kind of stuff, okay? All your lacto ferments. It's a whole other area that I could do 2 hours on. In fact, I can't really do that one in an hour and a half. All right. So has everyone had cheese now? Absolutely everyone. Good. Has everyone had dairy yogurt now? Okay, good. Let's talk about non-dairy yogurt. We have people who are lactose intolerant. You can make lactose-free yogurt. It works very, very well. But we also have people that can't have dairy at all. So coconut, soy, almond, lots of beautiful yogurts can be made with those alternatives. I'm going to talk about coconut because I bought coconut with me for you to taste, so I might as well talk about that one. Yes, you have a question? Yes. You must ferment coconut yogurt for 24 hours. So the answer to your question, can you use this machine, is yes, because it will ferment for 24 hours without temperature creeping. You cannot make coconut yogurt properly unless you do 24 hours. It just doesn't come together. So I use coconut cream. People go, oh, that's got a lot of fat in it. Yes! Fat tastes great. Fat does not make you fat. Sugar makes you fat. All right? Okay, so coconut cream. And then go ahead and put your bacteria in it so you can turn it into yogurt. But there's not enough natural sugar that the bacteria can eat in the coconut cream. Okay? It needs to eat really simple sugars. They're very, very simple single-celled organisms, and they need a very simple sugar. So you're going to have to put 1 tablespoon of sugar per liter of coconut cream. Then people go, oh, I'm trying to get away from sugar. I don't want to put sugar in there. It's not for you. It's for the bacteria. I buy dog food. I don't eat it. I give it to my dog. Okay? So these bacteria, think of them as another pet that prolongs your life and makes you happy and healthy. That's a good kind of pet, right? They want a tablespoon of sugar. Give them a tablespoon of sugar. They will reward you with an abundance of probiotic activity. Coconut sugar is harder for them to digest. Why would you make life hard for them? They're going to help you. Okay? Cheap table sugar. Yes. Raw honey. No. What is one of the great things about raw honey? Its antibacterial properties. Okay? You're still thinking that it's for you. It's not for you. They don't like honey. They like sugar. All right? So, yes. Yes, you can use raw sugar if you don't happen to have any white sugar in the house. I don't have white sugar in my house, so I use raw. Right? Just because it's convenient for me. But, you know, that's 99.9% the same as white sugar anyway. So that's why they don't care. And the 1% that's good for you is, or 0.1% that's good for you is completely wasted on them. Because they don't need it. Okay, they just want the sugar. All right, it won't thicken by itself either. Because it is the dairy protein coming together that makes the curd, and there isn't any dairy protein. So you need to thicken it with something. So I've got a couple of things that I thicken things with. One of the things I like to use is pectin. Any jam makers here? All right, pectin. Pectin is the thing that makes jam gel, and it is activated by lowering the pH, which is why quite often when we're making a jam, we put some lemon juice in it because it helps it set. So as the pH drops, the pectin's activated and it thickens. All right? So it has to be pure pectin, though. It can't be jam setter. People have used jam setter, it didn't work out at all because the number 1 ingredient is not even pectin. I think it's sugar first, citric acid second, and pectin third. So it's a whole, it's a product that's a mixture of ingredients. You want pectin, no extra sugar, no citric acid, just pectin. So at Green Living Australia, we have pectin. You can also find pure pectin in health food stores. Okay, but don't use the jam setter because it won't work. The other product that I really like is a product that we have at Green Living Australia. I didn't bring one along to show you. It's called Smooth Gel. And it's a pre-gelatinized rice flour. So it's hypoallergenic and gluten-free, which is really important. Also, a lot of people are having trouble with the corn now. The more genetically modified corn they grow, the more people are actually starting to react to corn. So, and most of the corn is unfortunately genetically modified now. It's got the Bt toxin in it. So a lot of people don't want to use cornstarch anymore. And cornstarch won't thicken until you heat it, and you can't heat your yogurt to a high temperature because you kill the bacteria. So rice flour, pre-gelatinized. So what that is we've actually heat-treated the rice flour first to activate it, kind of like you activate charcoal, to give it a larger surface area so it absorbs more liquid. So my recipe is 1 liter of coconut cream, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 to 2 tablespoons of smooth gel, depending on how thick you want it, and then a little bit of bacteria. Whisk it all together, pop it in the yogurt maker, and leave it for an entire 24 hours. Longer is better, less is no good. So if you left it in there for 26 hours accidentally, that'd be fine. But if you want to take it out at 20, not so good. All right? And you get a gorgeous coconut yogurt. It will continue to get thicker and thicker and thicker every day because the bacteria is still alive, making it slightly more acidic and thickening it up. All right? So the one coming around now is coconut yogurt. It hasn't had days and days to get thick. It was made yesterday. And I could taste that one to make sure it's okay. Okay, by the way, the recipe actually comes with the bacteria. This is the dairy bacteria, and this yellow flyer opens out into A5 directions, from A5 to an A4. Everything I'm telling you is in there. This one, the pink one, is the dairy one, and everything I'm telling you opens out into directions in there, okay? Each packet does 100 litres. So I do 2 litres at a time so I can get 50 batches out of here, and they're $17, $18. So that's less than 20 cents per litre. All right? So this is the non-dairy one. This is the dairy one. So your non-dairy recipe is 1 litre of coconut cream, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 to 2 tablespoons of smooth gel, and a tiny bit of your culture. If you were doing soy, it'd be 1 litre of soy, most likely 1 tablespoon of sugar, but some of the soy milks already have added sugar, so read the packet. 1 to 2 tablespoons of smooth gel and a little bit of culture. The brand that I really like for coconut cream, this is a good question. The brand that I like, there's one that is available in all the fruit and veggie stores in Logan. It's called Kara, K-A-R-A. It comes in a 1 litre Tetra Pak, and at the fruit and veggie store that I drive past every day to go to work, it's $4. Anyone seen the price of coconut yogurt recently? It's like $8 for a 250 gram thing. It's very expensive. Yes. Okay, tapioca syrup in soy milk is what one lady has. That's obviously what they use to sweeten it. Tapioca is a very simple starch, so the bacteria may well be able to break that down. I would try using your brand, the brand that you use, without adding sugar to see how it worked, and if it didn't work, add some sugar in and leave it longer. Yes, another question. Okay, smooth gel is available at Green Living Australia. You can get it online at our shop in Underwood. We also distribute to a couple of 100 health food stores. Yes. All right. I'm going to say this recipe one more time. Okay. See, I know what you're all doing. You're going, yeah, I don't need to write that down. And then you actually taste the yogurt. You go, oh, damn. That was a mistake. All right. So 1 litre of coconut cream, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 to 2 tablespoons of smooth gel, and a tiny little bit of bacteria. In these packets, there's about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half. That's enough for 100 litres. I've got these little mini measuring spoons also available at Green Living. This is a 64th of a teaspoon, and that's way too much. Okay?
Are we going to send them broke with all those cultures, Valerie?
Sorry?
Are we going to send them broke with all those cultures?
You will buy a pack of culture of me for about $18, and then I will see you this time next year. So once a year. Yeah, I know. I've had a business consultant come in and say they could make my business so much more successful. They want me to repackage all my stuff into smaller amounts for the same price, so you have to come back more often to buy this product. And I went,
we don't mind if you come
nah.
back and visit.
No, I'm okay. I'm doing good. I just need lots of customers to spend $20 a year with me. That's all. Yogurt makers are $49.95, okay? And it has an accurate thermostat. The other thing that I can recommend to you that also has an accurate thermostat that will do this yogurt is anyone who's got a Thermomix. Okay, they're $2,000 and I'm too cheap to buy one, but that also has an accurate thermostat. All right, yes. You're stretching. Yes. Okay, so question is, how do you keep this for a year? All right, it is bacteria. You pop this in the freezer, and it will completely go to sleep. You wake it up a year from now, it'll come straight back. They dug up a woolly mammoth a while ago. It's a few years back now. It was early in the news. Remember the woolly mammoth they found in the tundra? They cut a little piece off, they thawed him out. Guess what? Bacteria work right up again. Okay, you can't kill it by freezing it. You can just put it to sleep. You can kill it by getting it too hot. Okay, we mail order these all over the world. There is no freeze-dried cultures made in this country, so they're all imported. So mine come in the post in big, huge boxes from Italy. That's where I get all my culture from. I figure they got some of the best cheese in the world. They probably know what they're doing, okay? So that's where my cultures come from, and they go all over the place. So just ordinary temperatures, the temperatures that we can survive don't kill them. But if you bought a culture, you came to my shop, you bought a culture, you put it in the back seat of your car, and then you went and parked somewhere and went shopping somewhere else, and 4 hours later came back and your car was 90 degrees inside, guess what? Your puppy's dead, your child's dead, your grandchild's dead, and your culture's dead, okay? All right. So it's very important not to leave them in a hot car. Other than that, it's great. They are different. They have they both have Streptococcus thermophilus and Lactobacillus in them, but they're in a different order, okay? Because the one makes texture and the other one makes flavor. So they are slightly different. The non-dairy also has Acidophilus and Bifidus mixed into it. The truth is that you can use the dairy one to make coconut, but you can't use the non-dairy one to make dairy because it just doesn't quite, you get a bit of a gluey, stringy texture in your dairy one. So they are literally designed for different things. You can cross them over with slightly less good results. Some people go, yeah, who cares, you know. Okay, I want to talk about my book. This is what I'm here for, okay, to promote my new book. No, actually, we didn't even know we would have it arriving from the printers. So we were very excited when it did arrive, and we knew we would have it here today. The new edition of the book, big change. I took my face off the front cover. Okay,
we figured everyone knows who she is now.
I never liked it. I got outvoted. My business partners are my husband and my brother. Okay, so I lose the vote on a regular basis because they, over a bottle of scotch, work out my future. Okay, so but my picture's on the back now. All right, that was a compromise because I don't like my picture. Okay, so this book is 280 pages, but mostly what we did is we redesigned it so the pictures were bigger and better. It does have 5 more recipes in that are cheese recipes, and they're all kind of advanced cheeses. So if you're a beginner cheesemaker, it's not really going to make that much of a difference to you which one you get. The recommended retail price, because it is bigger and costs more to print, is $40 to $50. We will be selling them from Green Living Australia directly for $36.95. So today, you can either get one of the last 5 remaining first editions, or for $30, or you can get for $36.95 a second edition, and for the most part, it is the photos that changed. But there are 5 more cheese recipes in this one than this one. Does that make sense? Okay, and of course, if you get them today, we'll be able to sign them for you. They're always available at our shop in Underwood. I think most of the libraries do have copies, but like Brisbane City Council and Logan City Council and Gold Coast, they'll have copies, but I don't think they have a lot of copies. I think there's always budget restrictions on how many they get. And of course, if you ask for a book at your library and they don't have it, they will get it from another library for you because it's almost like one big system. And the other thing that I was told is if people are asking for books at a library and they only have 2 in the whole library system, if they get a lot of requests for that book, they will get more of that book because they're getting requests for them. Okay, so if you want to get this out of your library, ask. All right? Okay, so do we have any more questions? Just one. Oh, just a question on how much the yogurt maker was, $49.95. Okay, we are not selling product at this event. We do not sell product at Logan Libraries. We only sell self-authored books. And what the heck? We are 5 minutes up the road. You guys are so lucky. We go to Perth and we do these events, and we'll say, does anyone know about Green Living Australia? And half the people put their hands up. We go to Logan. Who knows about Green Living Australia before they got here today?
There's a few years.
Well, more than normal.
Go, Logan.
Yeah, woohoo. You know, it's really amazing that we can travel interstate and get people coming up that already know us, and we can be 5 minutes down the road and there'll be less people that already know us. All right. Okay, so is that it? Oh, yes, one more question? Oh, look, I actually do. The question is, how much is a cheese-making kit? A mozzarella kit is probably around $40. So you know that you can make the cheese 40 times. So you've got a $1 investment per cheese plus the milk. And then next time you don't need to buy the kit again. You just buy a replacement pack of tablets. So now it's 25 cents plus milk. So, yeah, so it definitely saves you money to make your own. But more importantly than that is you actually know what's in your food, because there's so much stuff in your food right now. It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Just a little bit on the kits while you're asking about the kits. They are the premium kits in the country for DIY cheese making, home preserving, sugar-free jam making, everything else. But the most important thing is that everything inside the kits you can buy piece by piece. It's all about saving your money and not exploiting your needs and desires. So you can buy one kit and then grow on that one kit, a bit like a Lego set. So you can just keep adding bits and pieces on all the time and grow into this magnificent cheese making or home preserving or fermenting or, you know, whatever you're going to go into. So it's all designed to work with you as you go. Valerie actually started this company up with a very moral base 15 years ago, and we've tried to follow that right throughout. Mainly because she's a bully and she'll beat us up if we don't. But apart from that, we do try and keep a moral compass and keep it set and try and follow that through. The products are always the best we can possibly make them. We manufacture so many things ourselves here at our manufacturing and distribution centre at Underwood. So we try and keep the quality up and the price down. We've got to stay in business, but we don't have to, go overboard, shall we say. I was going to say something else, but I'll be nice.
The kids moved out, so we actually don't need anywhere near as much anymore.
That's it. This lady? Good question. If you don't come from Logan, if you're not lucky enough to live right here with us in Logan and you've got to come in from somewhere else, you can actually look on our website, greenlivingaustralia.com.au, and at the very top on the banner you're going to find a thing called Store Finder. You can click on there, put in your postcode, it'll bring up your closest store, because we actually supply to a few hundred different health food stores through the country. We don't put mandatory limits on what they actually have to carry, but you'll find good things around the place at Flannery's, Go Vitas, different places. But remember, most of all, you can always phone us and talk to us. We still do it the old-fashioned way. You know, all these old-fashioned things that used to work for us so well, kept us healthy, kept us alive, kept us in control of what we're eating, what we're doing, how we're making things, that all still applies today. They haven't changed the rules. We can all still do it, and we're here to support you through those things. So we're very lucky because we do have experts like Valerie Pearson to back us up, and she is the leading expert at Green Living Australia. She's not just the big boss. We make her work for a living as well. So you can call us up, talk to us anytime, get a hold of all these different things, get a hold of that information. So that's what it's all about. Information is key, and
so
we're going to try and
have
give you
to
as
wrap
much
it
as
up
we can.
because it is 11:30, but we won't be going anywhere. We'll be here doing the dishes, because we're so cool. So if you do have questions that you would still like to have answered that you haven't had a chance to ask yet, please come and see me and ask me.
And Valerie will be signing her books as well.
I will be
today.
signing books.
Also, thank you very much to the Logan Libraries for having us out here. If you guys support them, they're going to support us. We're going to keep coming. So thank you so much.
Thank you.